सफीर पाकिस्तान आपके जज्बों का तर्जुमान, वतन से दूर वतन की आवाज और आपकी पहचान। सफीर पाकिस्तान
बाएतमाद नुमाइंदों की टीम के साथ सफीर पाकिस्तान सबसे पहले और सबसे आगे।
Safir Pakistan actively works to strengthen the bond between Pakistani Americans across the nation.
अमरीकी सियासत में अहम किरदार, मुसलसल अवामी प्लेटफॉर्म सफीर पाकिस्तान।
I really appreciate Waqar Ali Khan, who carries this process very well indeed.
पल पल की खबरें और कम्युनिटी राब्तों के साथ लगातार उभरते और कामयाब व कामरान लोगों की दास्तान आप तक पहुंचाने में सबसे पहले सबसे आगे।
Putting up a great program, running an excellent platform for bringing like minds together.
हर जगह हर पल आपका अपना सफीर पाकिस्तान नजर आता है।
बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम, अस्सलाम वालेकुम नाज़रीन, आपका मेज़बान वक़ार अली खान हाज़िर खिदमत है प्रोग्राम सफीर पाकिस्तान के साथ। आपके जज्बात और एहसासात का तर्जुमान, सिर्फ और सिर्फ सफीर पाकिस्तान, राब्तों का एक नाम, ऑफ कोर्स सफीर पाकिस्तान। नाज़रीन, आप साल से सफीर पाकिस्तान की नशरियात देख रहे हैं और आपने माशाल्लाह अभी तक 5 से 6-7 हज़ार लोगों से मुलाकात कर चुके हैं सफीर पाकिस्तान के ज़रिए। सफीर पाकिस्तान एक नामवर और एक ब्रांड है कम्युनिटी का, जो साल से खिदमत में पेश है। नाज़रीन, आज भी प्रोग्राम भरपूर है, हमेशा की तरह आज भी एक मुलाकात है और वो हर मुलाकात एक से एक होती है। तो देखते रहिए प्रोग्राम सफीर पाकिस्तान और मिलते रहिए लोगों से, एक से एक लोगों से।
Faber Fusion is a company run by clinicians. When we are looking at a patient, we are looking at the patient's medical needs first. Patient is in the comfort of his or her home. They're watching the TV, they're doing their chores while the infusion is going on. And patient's copay and deductible will be much lower if done at home than in the hospital setting. Home infusion, all in all, is a winning place for getting infusions done.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Audience, today very important program. Alhamdulillah, you are watching the Safir Pakistan programs on GeoTV network. Very popular programs. Thousands people watch weekly, Saturday and Sunday. Today I have a very important guest all the way from Michigan. And he's an entrepreneur. He is an inventor. And very unique kind of inventor, and he is originally from Pakistan, Lahore, but he born in Virginia in 1967. So let's introduce him to you guys. And Mr. Mujeeb, Ijaz, Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam. Nice to be with you, Waqar.
How are you, sir?
Good. Nice to be with you.
Yeah, it's our kind of first questions.
Yeah.
Begin by asking your introduction. You have to introduce yourself, who you are,
Sure.
what you have done so far, and briefly, then we'll go on the questions session.
Very good. Well, I'm an engineer by training. I went to Virginia Tech and received my mechanical engineering degree in the early 90s. And during that program, I developed a solar car that we raced from Florida to Michigan in the first university competition put on by General Motors. As I was born and raised in Virginia, I always liked working on cars. And a solar car kind of fit my family's ethos because my father was a nuclear physicist and my mother a solar physicist. So I was thinking about alternative energy as a young child all the time. And this gave me a chance to do something in automotive. I moved to Michigan, started working in my career with Ford electric vehicle, and then went on and on and on around battery topics until now I founded my own battery company named Our Next Energy.
It's called One.
One. We go by One.
Very good name, One.
One. And
I have a company called Concept One.
yeah, there you go. So, and now we're running that company for battery technology, automotive and grid, both here in Michigan.
Okay,
Yeah.
definitely. And why you have decided to start your profession in the car business?
Yeah, I think energy transition, if you think about fossil fuel and what really drove the development of the massive industry, it has been transportation. And I think of energy transition as being the next 100-year, it's like a century level change that we're working on moving away from carbon and into electrons. Now, electrons can be made many different ways. You can use fossil fuels, but you can also use many renewable energies. My dad used to teach me there are 9 ways to get to an electron.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so you can have hydro power, solar power, wind power, nuclear power. You can make it from natural gas. There's so many ways that you can generate electricity. So as we think about electricity as being the common denominator, it's globally available. It's something that every country and every people have access to, and local to their own land, everyone has access. Then I thought of energy transition and automotive going together. So since my early career, I've always believed that there would come a time where the world would want to change its fundamentals around energy. And transportation would be at the bedrock of that. And actually, it's interesting, 30 years I've worked here in electric vehicle. We're now in the 40th year of my career, and it's happening. You go to China, it's 50% of automobile new car sales are either battery electric or plug-in hybrid or hybrid. They're all related to this newer technology. So I think that we're in a position now where the rest of the world is following that trend.
Okay, so it was that you manufacture the solar car. So is there any future of the solar car?
There is. In fact, if you go to a smaller vehicle, let's now go back to Pakistan, rickshaw and a small utility truck, something that is low speed, it's in the city, it spends time sitting and delivering and then going and sitting and waiting. These vehicles actually are pretty ideal for a solar-powered electric powertrain. And then you can also plug them into augment. So you capture energy. If you need a little more, you can just plug them in and you get a little more. I do think that that's coming. Solar cells right now are hitting around 30% efficiency. At 50%, if we got to 50%, and when my mother was doing solar, it was 12%. From 12 to 30 already we've done. If you get to about 50% conversion efficiency, the area on top of a small bus, like a Volkswagen bus, those kinds of vehicles, it's enough to generate average speed of 30 miles per hour. So in other words, you can make a solar car. It's not very fast, but you can use a battery to accelerate beyond that. But the average is pretty reasonable. So I think there is a future for solar cars.
The main, your hardcore business
Yeah.
and your interesting product
Yeah,
is battery. You started your company
yeah,
as a battery manufacturer.
that's right.
Which is for the electric cars.
Yeah.
Would you please explain about that?
Yeah, so we started around 2020, and electric cars, that means passenger vehicles, trucks, even delivery trucks like package delivery. We design batteries for all of these transportation products. But as the electric vehicle market in the West, and I'm speaking of now Europe and America, it's kind of trying to find when does it take off. It's not yet ready completely. There's a reasonable market, but not a mass market yet. We think the utility grid and batteries against buildings and collecting energy from solar plants, that's going to be our first business. So we are working on both grid batteries and those
Grid
batteries that are connected to the grid, and also automotive batteries, and they kind of work together as well. So we make the same cell technologies, same chemistry for both automotive and grid, and we're kind of maturing both markets. But we think the grid market will go first.
The grid market is the first market.
That's right.
Oh.
And actually, you know, if you look at now Pakistan's interest in solving grid problems, everyone in Pakistan understands, and when I visited my mother in Islamabad, I could see that power outage is a routine thing.
Routine thing.
Routine thing, brownout. You get some region in the city and they shut off. Another region, they shut off. Another region, they shut off. And in the context of that, these power shutoffs make it very difficult to predict and even to have a normal lifestyle. Well, actually, a battery can solve that. A battery can absorb enough energy slowly from the grid that the grid doesn't need to go through peaks and valleys.
Yes.
The battery is what normalizes that. So homes with batteries or cars that bidirectionally charge and contribute to a home, but then take it back and store it, that's what we're working on right now.
So what is you need to help your country about this electric shortage? What is your advice? What you need from the government of Pakistan? How we can help?
Yeah, it's a good question. You know, I honestly haven't been back to Pakistan since maybe 2003 or 4. It's been a long time.
Then we have to take you Pakistan.
You have to, so my first answer to you is I need to re-educate myself. Current situation.
Sure.
I don't know the current situation so well, but what I predict is the problem is that the cities have become so saturated with population, and the rural areas, you know, I drove from Islamabad to Lahore, and I could see the vast country is not inhabited, but the cities are over-congested.
Over-congested.
And you know what's the problem behind that? Is infrastructure is not deployed. Infrastructure means you make an electric power line and you run from here to there. You make the electricity available for the masses. Well, infrastructure is something that I'm working on as well. I think that a new way of looking at products is that batteries are not standalone a solution. It also needs generation. So either solar or natural gas, some kind of way to generate electricity, or hydro. Pakistan has hydro, a lot of hydro.
Yes, a lot of hydro.
So we need to collect the energy, and then we need to deploy batteries so that when a region is needing power, it doesn't need to have a massive power station, but batteries can help levelize that. So I think in the context of infrastructure, we can design products that generate electricity from natural gas, store it in batteries, and build cities. And then you don't need to run massive infrastructure. You just need natural gas, as an example.
So do you need a battery setup in Pakistan, or?
Yeah, to manufacture is a good idea. I mean, I think China has scaled batteries to such a degree that the global capacity of battery, if you look at China, we're over capacity right now. We make more batteries, or could make more batteries than we're consuming. So the cost of batteries have come down. And I think actually China's being so close to Pakistan that that's a good supply chain for Pakistan to engage in. But the advantage of building it locally is still there, because you create jobs, you create your own raw material supply chain, you create know-how, because actually we have to also recognize that the countries that are manufacturing the next generation of technology will be the experts at making those technologies better. So Pakistan should invest in making its own battery.
Its own battery. So do you think the material and the raw material is available in Pakistan?
Yeah, I mean, there are lots of chemistries, and by the way, I've followed a lot of chemistries in my career. 30 years I've worked in chemistry development and automotive and so forth. But I believe that we have one example of a battery that lasted more than 100 years, which was lead acid. That was the original battery from the 1800s. Now we're in a battery that I believe will be the next 100 years. It may not be the highest density or highest performance, but it's going to be the lowest cost and the longest lasting and the easiest and the best safety for some time, which is iron phosphate, iron-based battery. So we're going to move, and that's what one works on, is iron-based batteries, LFP. As I look back, in 1907, 38% of all cars were electric in America. 38%. So electric cars started back in the early 1900s. And lead acid batteries were the batteries. When I look now at the cost of batteries, batteries actually are very low cost. Compared to their size and mass, they're actually equal to the cost of, say, a car. It's not like the battery's much more expensive than the car itself. It's actually become kind of on par if you do it on a unit per kilogram basis.
Yeah.
So I think we're at a stage where iron-based batteries should be easy to manufacture. Iron is available, 5% of the Earth's crust is iron.
Okay.
Okay, so that means it's so abundant that you have no problems finding iron anywhere in the world. That's a major advantage.
I see. So that's a solution for fight for the electric shortage in Pakistan.
I think so. I think that hydro, solar, wind, nuclear, these are the 4 ways that you get sort of a sustainable energy. Batteries give you a way to distribute the energy. That's it. And if you have a very congested city, and then you have to brown out, batteries can help you also by absorbing the energy from the generation and then distributing it as it's needed without having a problem of shutting off this region and then shutting off that region.
Yeah. You mentioned me in the meeting that you are brightening the Africa's countries, villages,
Yeah.
giving them light, bringing the light in the dark cities.
Yeah.
What about that?
Yeah, I one time I was staring at a map of the world at night. You can see human activity because the lights are on. So you can look at America and all the lights are on. You can look at Europe, you see lights are on. You look at the east of China or Japan, easily the lights are on. But if you look at sub-Sahara Africa, the lights are off. But there are 1 billion people that live there. So my thought process is this, that if you want to discover the needs of the future of energy, go where the infrastructure has not been built, learn about the needs of the people, solve that problem. Ask yourself why. Why is there no infrastructure? Why are there no lights? Because actually the equation that I've been taught by one of our investors is that energy and access to energy is prosperity. These 2 things go together.
Yes.
Energy and prosperity. So it's education, it's industrialization. In fact, in Bill Gates' book, How to Avert a Climate Disaster, he plots a chart of gross domestic product by country and shows the access to energy is the proportional relationship to the GDP. So if you're meeting with a king or a president or someone, a ruler of a country, and you ask the question, do you want to grow your GDP by 25%? You could simply, with a linear line, show them, here's how many people you need to provide access to energy. That's my thesis of one, is we're trying to solve the infrastructure problem of bringing access to energy to the masses. That's sort of the ultimate vision of the company. So I think of sub-Saharan Africa as the real future market.
So when you're trying to enter in that market?
Well, to be honest with you, first requires a product concept. So yeah, I've traveled there and I visited, I think, 8 countries so far, which is not very many. It's not that I have an expert opinion, but I've tried to get an impression. And as I visited, I can see lack of infrastructure. Number one problem is governments are not investing in their own infrastructure. Why? Because if I'm going to build, let's say it costs $50 million to make infrastructure go 1,000 miles, okay? Rough order of magnitude. The people would ask the question in government, who's there? And they might say, well, there's some people that have low income, their population is like 100,000, and then the answer is then don't do it. So it's chicken and egg. You don't build the infrastructure, you never get prosperity, right?
Prosperity, yeah.
What we're doing is we're saying, okay, let's make infrastructure, if I can use this. Imagine an infrastructure where this is a generation device, and I don't need an electric line from above, and I can place this in a region, and it generates all the power needed by the entire town. One device.
One device.
Just running on natural gas, for example. That is a solution, because then governments can buy that device, they can plant it where they want, they can build around it. and they can get industry to start growing. Industry needs raw materials. A lot of countries have raw materials. Industry needs education.
Like you need an infrastructure, lining or something.
Once you build this, then you only need a local area network.
Okay.
What they call this is a microgrid.
As a microgrid.
Instead of connecting the whole country, you're connecting the table. Let's say this table is our microgrid. Let's say it's 10 miles by 10 miles. You make this one area connected, but then not connected to anything else, and that's your source of energy. That's the future, I think.
Yeah. Now I'm coming to the defense side.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
हर जगह हर पल आपका अपना सफीर पाकिस्तान नजर आता है।
So what distinguishes Expert MRI from other privately held companies is the fact that we are a very research and innovation based company. So the patients do have that freedom to be able to get up and leave, and they have the ability to directly speak to the technician. I recommend Expert MRI because proper diagnosis leads to proper treatment. So Expert MRI is focused on accurate diagnosis that then leads to accurate treatment. The key to accurate treatment is accurate diagnosis.
हर जगह हर पल आपका अपना सफीर पाकिस्तान नजर आता है।
नादीन तो देखते रहिए सफ़ीर पाकिस्तान और जुड़े रहिए सफ़ीर पाकिस्तान से। अगर आपकी नज़र में कोई रिपोर्ट्स है, इवेंट है, प्लानिंग है और कोई ऐसी शख्सियत है जो वाकई एक से एक है, तो हमसे ज़रूर राब्ते में रहिए। इसके साथ ही आपका मेज़बान वकाल खान आपसे जाया जाएगा। अल्लाह हाफ़िज़। पाकिस्तान पाइंदाबाद।